Hello everyone, welcome back to Royal News Network. My name is Brittany and today we're going to be talking about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's deal with Spotify and how the music streaming platform really had to twist their arm in order to get them to produce some content. It broke late yesterday that Meghan is going to finally start producing a podcast series for Spotify. This is after well over a year of them producing their first podcast and has really nothing to do with kind of the teaser trailer that they set out for Archewell audio. So it's rather interesting. They are blaming Joe Rogan and misinformation about the pandemic, but I don't think that's really the truth. And so let me give you some insight into what I think actually happened. Okay guys, so if you've never been to Royal News Network, we cover anything related to royal. So that's news, gossip, fashion, jewelry, history, television shows, and movies. So if that's of interest to you, feel free to give this video a subscribe. And like I said, today we're going to be talking about kind of royals who are on the periphery now, but they still do have a great impact on what's going on in the UK, and that's Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. So in December 2020, they had signed a $25 million deal with Spotify. Spotify is a known music streaming platform, and they're also really delving into podcasts. And so the couple had already signed a deal with Netflix in September. And so this was another multi-million-dollar deal, and everybody was like, yay. And they had, a podcast ready to go. They had this little 2-minute trailer where Harry could not say Archewell, which is kind of funny because that's the name of their own organization. And then they gave this 35-minute rather boring podcast episode where they asked basically all their famous friends, even though they kind of said they were going to talk to people of all walks of life. Pretty much everyone was a liberal, progressive, and a celebrity friend on top of it. And they asked them to send in little audio clips of their experience with the pandemic. And this podcast, I tried to listen to it. Honestly, I thought it was a little boring. I don't think I would have listened to it, except for I was trying to do a bit of research for this video. It doesn't have any of the interest to me. None of the people they really interviewed were of interest to me. So just looking at it, the couple really had set up this kind of platform where they were going to be interviewing all these different people, and it really seemed like they were going to hit the ground running, like Meghan said in her engagement interview. She was going to hit the ground running. Well, kind of like the royals, Spotify was a bit let down as well because they haven't produced anything since. So that episode dropped in December 2020. It is now kind of closing in on the end of March 2022. And we will not get our first episode of Meghan's podcast, which I've heard might be just called Meghan, and it won't even drop until the summer. So what the heck happened? This is really kind of strange. Obviously, they did have a child they had baby Lily in June of 2021, but podcasts are not difficult in terms of you can film it in your street clothes, you can film it in your pajamas, you can do it from your bedroom if you want to. Probably not the best idea. But the advantage with a podcast is that you can literally do it anywhere. I've done podcasts. I'm going to start one up again here for this platform as well. It was called the Royal Gab. And so but it does take some time to edit things out. But Harry and Meghan had the benefit of not having to do kind of all the busy work of getting all your uhs and weird breathing out of the way, which is what I do. And so it's just a big question of what the heck is going on. Well, Harry and Meghan are blaming misinformation related to Joe Rogan and the pandemic, which is just bizarre. So they claim in this statement, let me read it to you. As we continue to tackle the misinformation era, Archewell Audio has found it important to work with our partners at Spotify to ensure that the digital technology so many of us use every day are rooted in strong principles of trust and safety. We are encouraged by ongoing conversations we've had with Spotify on this shared goal. We have been working closely with their team as well as their senior leadership towards policies, practices, and strategies meant to raise creator awareness, minimize the spread of misinformation, and support transparency. Now, just looking at this, guys, the misinformation is a red herring. If you hear somebody go, oh, misinformation, disinformation, that's a sign that it's a red herring, especially anymore in this media culture, which is very much driven by one singular narrative, especially here in the United States. Yesterday, it broke that Hunter Biden, so he is Joe Biden's son, and he had this laptop that was discovered, and information about it was published in the New York Post about Hunter and his father and their wheelings and dealings in Ukraine. And this was the New York Post got their entire Twitter account shut down over this laptop story. And guess what? The New York Times published yesterday, or maybe it was late Wednesday, that yes, the laptop was real. Even though every major news outlet said it was false, it was real the entire time. So what is misinformation? Misinformation, basically, if you want to believe that the world is flat, you are welcome to believe that. That is your right living in this country. So if you want to believe anything you want to about the vaccine, that is your right. And this kind of misinformation campaign is really a way for Harry and Meghan to deflect from the fact that they have no vision for what they're doing. They have no idea what they wanted to do for the podcast, because they announced it today, and we won't get anything until the summer. That's a good 3 or 4 months away. Podcasts do not need that length of time in order to be created, unless they're doing something insanely complicated, which is a little ridiculous. I mean, I think kind of crime shows like Dateline. I listen to Dateline a lot. Dateline, obviously they've talked to people for several months. I mean, I can't see how Meghan's podcast would need something like that. So that they're finally announcing this now means that Spotify has finally twisted their arm enough and maybe threatened to force them into breach of contract enough to say, okay, we'll finally produce a podcast for you. Because really, their kind of complaints just don't really make any sense. It's kind of like, I believe in one of the initial comments, they said they had started raising concerns about this with Spotify in like April of 2021. This is well before kind of the controversy over Joe Rogan really exploded. And so it's like they're jumping on that bandwagon to go, okay, yes, this was a real issue. This was a real issue all along. Like, this is why we haven't done anything, is because of this, But it really just doesn't make a ton of sense. And Spotify is probably letting them do this in part because Spotify needs to protect the Harry and Meghan brand, which they've paid $25 million for, which has decreased in value since the Oprah Winfrey interview. It's kind of crashed and burned over this last year. And so Spotify is looking at this going, we need content or we need our money back. And we need something at least decent. And if you're not going to work, we're going to force you to work to the best of our abilities. So that's why we've gotten this final update, because really, if you look at their initial podcast, especially their trailer, it is Harry and Meghan. And then the special is Harry and Meghan. I mean, they don't do much. They just kind of give an intro. They pop in here or there. Again, it's kind of the laziest thing they could have done for kind of a podcast where they supposedly, quote unquote, interviewed people. But it was them together. So now, why is it all of a sudden just Meghan going forward? What was Archewell Audio? Did it ever exist in the first place? What were they going to do? Like, it just doesn't make any sense, because really their teaser never came to fruition. They even were part of a little promo for Spotify, and they were together. So if it was always going to be just Meghan doing the podcast, then they should have just been doing Meghan. That they had them together is just strange, because where was this going? Like, they were going to do this as a couple, now they're not. Again, it raises a whole bunch of questions, and it really brings to the forefront how much they've struggled in this endeavor that they've set out on. They were going to be these big time movers and shakers. I covered this a lot in a video that will be uploaded on Sunday. I filmed that one early, and unfortunately, of course, this broke like after I filmed it. So Harry and Meghan really, they stole my thunder and they messed me up. But anyways, I don't think they really had any vision for this. They have no real background in being creative in that way. Harry and Meghan, Harry barely graduated high school. He had to allegedly cheat to actually pass art in high school. Like, literally, they helped him cheat so he could finally get his high school diploma. And the subject they had to really help him in was art. Art is subjective. People throw things at a canvas, paint splotches, and that's art. I mean, I don't think that's art, but other people do. If you think that's art, hey, this is a free country. You are welcome to think that. However, I don't really think it's art. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. And Meghan, I mean, she had her podcast, her website, and her social media presence, but she was really an influencer, and she had very minimal contributions to her television show. I think it was she wanted less bedroom scenes and maybe changed a line or two. Either way, it's just another example of how this Hollywood this Hollywood misadventure has really not boded well for them. I mean, there was reports that, the National Enquirer recently released a cover saying that their divorce is pending potentially. And it's kind of interesting now that we hear that just Meghan is doing the podcast, not Harry and Meghan. And there's a lot of reports that Harry's kind of out and about in Montecito, and nobody ever sees Meghan. Nobody knows where she is. And obviously nobody sees the kids as well because they're under lock and key basically. And so it's just, there's a lot of questions, but I really think that this announcement was Spotify finally being able to twist their arm enough to say, hey, you need to produce something or we need whatever money they gave them back. I mean, I would assume they wouldn't have given the whole bucket of money. That would be an incredibly stupid business decision on Spotify's part. You don't ever, because they haven't produced anything like that. Joe Rogan, you can give $100 million to him. He does a podcast every day for hours. So the guy is churning out content you already know he has a great track record. He's been doing podcasts since kind of basically podcasts started. Harry and Meghan have no track record. So I hope Spotify didn't give them all the money, but I'm sure they gave them an advance with the intention that the couple would start producing things very quickly. And that they haven't goes to show that things aren't going well. And we did obviously hear that Spotify was trying to hire people, Netflix the same thing, to try to get Harry and Meghan up to speed so that they can justify that $15 million house they have and the supposed millions that they have in the bank that keep supposedly rolling in. So it's very interesting. Let me know what you guys think. I mean, again, these are just my opinions on the situation. I read most of what everybody else reads and I come across other things. But if you have any inside information, please let me know. I'd love to know. And what do you think? Do you think this whole red herring of misinformation is really a way to camouflage that Harry and Meghan had no plan and had to have other people help them come up with a plan? Let me know what you think and feel free to give this video a thumbs up, and I look forward to seeing you again. On Sunday, we'll be releasing Harry and Meghan has their Hollywood dream failed. I'll give you a couple of reasons why I think that might be the case, and I would love to see you then. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.